Assets related to home mortgages have lost value during the housing decline, and the banks holding these assets have restricted credit. As a result, our entire economy is in danger.
The money system has collapsed. I repeat. The money system has collapsed. I repeat. The Dajjalic money system has collapsed. Hand over your house keys to the bank. I repeat. If you have a mortgage, hand over the keys to the bank.
The dollar is an intensive care unit. We are moving into the final phase, the battle between currencies. One that will be backed by a hard asset, which was real money since time immemorial until 1971.
We must protect the position of the American dollar as a pillar of monetary stability around the world. In the past 7 years, there's been an average of one international monetary crisis every year. Now, who gains from these crises? Not the working man, not the investor, not the real producers of wealth. The gainers are the international money speculators. Because they thrive on crises, they help to create them. In recent weeks, the speculators have been waging an all-out war on the American dollar. The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
And the other, backed by promises that future generations will pay through debt, inflation, and ever-rising taxation. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned that the new Russia-China gold standard spells certain death of the US dollar within the next few years. Metal experts have backed up Putin's claim, predicting that when BRICS countries launch their internal gold trading platform, the global economy will be completely reshaped, with the West losing its dominance, as Beijing and Moscow understand that America used the dollar to control the world. By implementing a new kind of gold standard, they want to distance themselves from this control. Furthermore, the vast majority of the people in Asia see gold as superior or real money, something the West has forgotten because all the paper wealth credit they have accumulated. In the past few months, the dollar has almost doubled in value against the pound. The yuan has lost considerable worth. Venezuelan bolivia has become worthless. Argentinian peso has lost 40% of its value store. India's currency, despite drastic measures, keeps going down. Brazil too, Nigeria, Russia, effectively the entire world, even gold. The powerful elite have now introduced bitcoins into the money market. Bitcoin looks like it was designed as a weapon intended to damage central banking and money issuing banks, with a libertarian political agenda in mind, to damage states' ability to collect taxes and monitor their citizens' financial transactions. But is it really? Bitcoin is actually a network-based digital currency that is created and exchanged electronically. Although the currency exists entirely online, it can be used to purchase non-virtual goods and services, because it is purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. Bitcoins allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. This is actually a Zionist creation and nothing to do with supposed fake Japanese man hiding somewhere in his mother's basement. This was actually created to distract us from forming our own powerful currencies away from the dollar. China will compel Saudi Arabia to trade oil in yuan, and when this happens, the rest of the oil market will follow suit and abandon the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. The Saudis know this quite well, hence why they are appeasing America and Israel for now, to keep them quiet. Saudi Arabia has to pay attention to this because even as much as 1 or 2 years from now, Chinese demand will dwarf US demand. The Saudi camel jockey monarchy will of course suffer some serious consequences as a result. Since 1974 agreement between US President Richard Nixon and Saudi King Faisal, Saudi Arabia has accepted payments for nearly all of its oil exports in dollars. However, as China imports more and more oil from countries across the world, the idea of having to purchase that same oil in dollars has become increasingly irritable to Beijing. Already the impending collapse of the US dollar is reflected in the rising price of gold, now close to a record of $850 an ounce. The world can expect to see the price of gold escalate to about $3,000 or more per ounce. The same would happen to the price of oil. Perhaps the psychological shock of the collapse of the US dollar would produce the stampede through which electronic money would effortlessly replace paper money as the new cashless money system of the world.
Hughes, former senior counselor at the World Bank. Karen, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Sophie. I'm glad to be with you.
So the government shutdown, is the move on the part of the Republicans justified? Is fighting off Obamacare worth all this mess?
I think there's something more going on behind the scenes. A lot more, actually.
What do you mean?
Well, there is a terrible currency problem. We're on the verge of a currency war. The Federal Reserve is printing dollars like there's no tomorrow, and if they keep going, the rest of the world is not going to accept them. As it is, the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have decided that they're going to finance the trade among these countries with offsets and pay for the difference in gold. And
but
this
how is that connected
the right
with the
move
shutdown,
for them,
though?
because the U.S. Congress has been fighting with the presidency because the presidency has been in total contempt, and the highest legal officer of the United States government has also been in contempt of Congress in fighting this international corruption that is ruining the dollar as an international reserve currency.
But you know, economists have been predicting the dollar will fall ever since the crisis in 2008, but the government has managed to keep it afloat.
Well, not for long. If you look at what's going on in the gold and other precious metals markets, silver as well, we're headed towards something called permanent gold backwardation. That means that there's a loss in confidence in the fiat currencies that are issued by those private banks. They like to consider themselves as public banks, but they're really owned by private entities. And these currencies are about to crash because they're valueless. That's what always happens to paper currencies that aren't backed by assets.
Mm-hmm. But well, like you've mentioned, gold backwardation. Gold is often chanted as perfectly safe investment, an alternative to the dollar even. But how come the price of gold is falling?
Because of market manipulation. But that can only continue for so long because the central banks are running out of gold and the rest of the world are lining up to buy them. If you want to buy gold today, you have to pay a premium. What they're offering in the future is called a naked short. They don't have the gold to back those offers. That's illegal what they're doing.
Hi, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Somalia, Indonesia, Iraq, Iran, Azerbaijan, Malaysia, Turkey, Afghanistan, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Iraq, Maldives, Oman. Are you also going to prepare for the economic collapse? It's time to boycott the dollar. Anonymous subscriber.
The money which is coming, I said 15 years ago is going to come, it's already here. When the US dollar collapses, it's going to bring down the whole world of paper money with it. And this bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper money, which of course we can defend anytime anyone wants to challenge us or not, is going to be replaced with electronic money, which will be more haram and more dangerous. I thought it's coming in the future, it's already here. But then imagine my surprise, based on my study of Islamic eschatology. 2 years ago I realized that the same people who have given us paper money in order to rip us off and to reduce Indonesia to abject poverty, so our daughters will now be maids all over the world, our daughters, and be paid the salary of dogs and cats. Our daughters. The same people who are now giving us electronic money in order to have a system where you have espionage to track down every single transaction and to be able to close an account whenever they want to, whenever it's convenient. The same people are going to bring back gold and silver tomorrow as money. I was surprised when I discovered that.